Okay, so we're going to talk about assets, liabilities, and equity. Assets are anything that's in your favor, anything you own, have ownership of, any inventory you would have in your store. All of those things are assets. Liabilities are anything you still owe to someone. So maybe you have a loan you're paying on the store. Um, Maybe you have inventory you haven't paid for yet. All of those things are liabilities. Um, and equity is how much you're worth. So basically, equity is your assets minus your liabilities. It's everything that you have minus what you still owe on that. And hopefully your equity is in the positive so that you've paid some things off and you're um, not in the red. Here are some of the formulas, and it's really all the same formula. They've just solved it for different parts. So if you're trying to find assets, you take the liabilities plus the owner's equity. If you're trying to find the equity, you take assets minus liabilities. And if you're trying to find liabilities, you take assets minus the equity. Okay, so here is Tom's Tunes. They have assets of, and notice assets are not just one thing. Okay, they can be cash. So this person has some cash. They can be merchandise that you've already purchased and is in your store. They can be supplies that you have to work with. Those are all things that are assets. The liabilities, like I said, are things you might still owe on. So there's 42,000 that's owed to the bank, and then there's $346.50 in taxes. They want to know what's the owner's equity. Okay, so again, to find equity, we just want to use the correct formula. We want the one that says owner's equity equals, so we're using this one. Owner's equity is assets minus liabilities. Okay, so first we need to total our assets and total our liabilities. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so let's total up our assets. So we had $12,436 in cash. We had $58,130 in merchandise and $10,342 in supplies. Let's add those together to find out what we have for assets total. Okay, when we do that, we should get about $80,908. Okay, now let's do liabilities. Okay, they've only listed two here. There's $42,000 that's owned to the bank, and $346.50 in taxes. Let's total those. We get $42,346.50. Okay, now we can find our owner's equity. Again, we're going to take our total assets minus our total liabilities. So we're going to take 80,908 minus $42,346.50. And we get $38,561.50. Okay, here's an example where they have all of the assets and liabilities listed in a sheet. It said for Frank's Music, what's the total assets and what are the total liabilities? Well, we need to look at this and decide what are assets and what are liabilities. So again, assets are anything that you own, okay, have possession of, adds to the value of you and your company. So cash is definitely an asset. Anything that customers owe to you still, that's an asset because it's still coming in and will be in your favor. Inventory, that's stuff you have on hand. Supplies are assets. Store fixtures, so that's like the shelves, all of the anything in the store. The building is an asset, and the land is an asset. Now, a bank loan, that's something that you owe to someone else, so that is a liability. Unpaid merchandise, I'm going to put the liabilities in yellow. Okay, so the bank loan would be a liability. Unpaid merchandise, that's stuff you haven't paid for, still have to pay, so you owe that to someone. That's a liability. Taxes are a liability. Wages owed, so wages you still have to pay out to your employees for hours they've worked, that's a liability. And then the mortgage loan. Okay, that's the money you owe on this building that you are operating out of. So let's find our totals. So for assets, we're going to add all of these purple values together, and that will give us our total assets. So let's start with that. What's our total assets? So we had 5,690, 7,232, 18,550, $615, and 50 cents, 2,780, and 42,000, and one more 30,000. Okay, so I get total assets of $106,867.50. So those are our total assets. Okay. Next, let's answer what's the total liabilities. So again, everything else there is a liability. Again, liabilities are all those things that you owe to someone else. So let's total those. Okay, so we're going to total everything that's highlighted in yellow. 15,315, 5,378, $810.10, $525.45, and 21,575. Okay, that gives me total liabilities of $43,603.55. So we can see that our assets are more than our liabilities, which is a good thing.